Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, How to Buy a Home in the Netherlands. This is interesting, feel at home in the Hague Fair, a different way this time with Corona. We have 3 different panelists here this afternoon, and they're going to explain to you how to buy a home. My name is Sylvia ten Houten. I am a long-term expat of 20 plus years, and I haven't yet bought a home, so I'm going to be listening avidly to all the questions and the answers this afternoon. Welcome to Carola. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself first.
Hi, my name is Carola Grunenbaum. I'm the director of Stark Real Estate, and I'm the author of The Hague Houses and Happiness, which has been published, and I help people to acquire a Dutch home, and I'm specialized in purchasing homes for expats. Being a long-term expat in the Netherlands myself, I've lived in several countries and continents, and I settled down here. I think The Hague is a wonderful place to be at.
Thank you. Do we have the video from Carola? Well, thank you for that. That was actually the video from our notary here. So Joep can introduce himself now, just as to let you know what a notary does in the Netherlands, because it's a little bit of a confusing thing sometimes.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Joep Ertem, and as a deputy civil law notary, it is my duty to provide you with advice on a large variety of legal subjects. Our professional legal advisors provide our clients with advice on family law, company law, and real estate issues such as property conveyance, mortgages from a legal perspective, making wills, prenuptial agreements, and cohabitation agreements. And I had indeed a video which has been shown to you just a moment ago, in which I have summarized the kind of issues we deal with on a regular basis, daily basis rather. So, well, this would have been my cue, but our video has been shown already. So,
thank you, Joep. Do we actually get the video from Carola? Just that was a question. And in the meantime, I'd like to introduce Nathan. Thank you, Nathan, for making this happen as well.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Nathan Thames. I've been working for the International Clients Department of ABN AMRO Bank for approximately 6 years now, of which 5 years as a mortgage advisor for expats. So we are specialized in mortgages for expats, but we also actually are a one-stop shop. So we also offer payment services, and also insurances, for instance, for expats. So quite a broad spectrum. But I'm here today as a mortgage advisor, and I will be able to assist you with all of the questions regarding buy a house, whether you being eligible to buy a house, but also how the whole mortgage process looks like. So that's it. What I would like to bring to you today.
Great, thank you, Nathan. So that is a good segue to the key question why we're all here, and I think the audience is dying to know. So who is eligible to buy a house here in the Netherlands as an expat?
Yeah, good question. We, with ABN AMRO Bank, in any case, we realized that the situation of expats is definitely different compared to, somebody that has been born and raised here in the Netherlands. So, yeah, before I can answer that question, we would have to look at your specific situation. And then the most important things that we look at is your employment here. For how long you've been here, what kind of employment contract you have, is it indefinite or temporary, and your full financial situation. And both based on those variables, we can decide indeed, if you're eligible for a mortgage or not.
Okay, okay. So you need to have a good contract, stay for at least, let's say, 5 years, for example. Does it matter which country you come from at all? I'll ask maybe Carola if you can answer in your experience.
No, it doesn't really matter from where you are from, as long as you are having a solid foundation, I would say.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
And what have you seen? What kinds of people have purchased a house with your help? Mostly from Europe or more from America? Did you see any patterns with this at all? Or
Lots of Europe, but of course also America, South America, Australians, New Zealanders, Chinese people, a lot of Chinese people in the recent years. So yes, people from India, so from all continents, from the entire world, people are here. So it's quite a melting pot, The Hague.
okay, interesting. And
Yes.
I think a big question for us expats is, okay, maybe you're eligible to buy a house because of your contract and the type of work you do. Doesn't matter where you come from, great. But what happens, I'm going to jump the gun, when you would like to leave? And maybe I can ask Joep from your perspective. So you've bought a house and then you're called to the next posting or you need to go home. What are the options that you see?
Sure. Well, ownership-wise, no changes happen automatically once you leave the country, whether it is for a short period of time or permanently. So you don't have to necessarily arrange anything regarding the ownership of the house. So you could rent it out, or you could indeed sell it after a couple of years post-rental. So you don't have to arrange anything regarding the ownership, but you do have to arrange something in regards to the administration of the immovable properties located in the Netherlands. Because there has to be somebody present in the Netherlands who can act on your behalf when it is needed. For example, we're having the first spring storm of the year right now. So suppose your house is damaged by the weather and is in need of repairments. Or suppose you would like to sell your house after a couple of years post-rental, or you would like to rent it out to somebody else or establish a mortgage on it. In that case, it might be, well, it is recommended that you have a power of attorney, a general power of attorney issued, included in a notarial deed, in which you appoint somebody who can act on your behalf once you're not here anymore, once you're not present.
I see a lot of nodding, so that's the most important key thing, that if you would like to rent out your house if you've left, is that you have your Dutch BFF or neighbour doing this. Nathan, would you like to add a little bit on that?
Yeah, indeed. Well, how I see it, indeed, if you come here as an expat, you've lived here for a couple of years, and especially with expats, you don't really know where your career brings you. If you would have to leave, then in my opinion, you have sort of two main routes that you can take, which is either selling, which is actually never a problem because you can just sell, pay off the remaining debt. If you have a profit, then the profit is yours. So that might be interesting as well. We get a lot of questions of expats about the possibilities to rent out your property as well. That works a little bit differently because, the general rules and regulations of the mortgage tell us that that's not allowed. For expats that are sent away on a temporary assignment abroad, for instance, you would have to ask for permission of the bank to do so, and normally that's also possible. So I think selling and renting are two main options. As I said, selling is never a problem. Renting, some specific terms and conditions that we would have to look at before that is allowed.
So when you get your mortgage, initially you're not allowed to rent it out. That's the standard way.
Correct. That's the base rule. Yeah.
Base rule. And so, and it's fine if you say we have a reason to leave and can we renegotiate, and you go to your bank and why would you say it's possible, or why would you say it's not possible?
Yeah, so the easiest way is if your company, for instance, when you work for Shell, for instance, they send you away on a temporary assignment for 4 years with the intention to come back to the Netherlands, then normally we would give you permission because it's only temporary. You would come back to your own house to live in it. So then we would normally give you permission. And if that's not the case, then you can always still look at the possibility to turn your regular mortgage into a keep-to-let mortgage, where it would officially be allowed to rent out the property as well.
So a keep-to-let is the intention of the mortgage is to actually rent the house.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting, okay.
So you have a buy-to-let where you buy something that you would rent out straight away, or a house that you initially buy for yourself, but then indeed after 4 or 5 years you would leave the country, you say, okay, then it would be a good opportunity to rent out, and then indeed switch to a keep-to-let.
Good to hear there are a lot of different options for the expats here. I'd like to ask Carola to run through maybe some of the costs required in purchasing a house, and maybe afterwards we can run her a video after she's answered this question as well.
Yes, many thanks. The costs of purchasing a house, it's about 6 to 7%. So you look at 2% for the tax, property tax you have to pay. You have notary costs, you have ground book costs, which involve that as well, because we control also, they check, the notaries check, Joep checks whether the house is only sold to you, so there is some research done. And of course you have the costs for the buyer's agent, somebody like me, who is helping you being specialized on purchase. And you must understand that most agents are specialized on selling. Our agency is for 80% specialized on purchasing a home in the Netherlands.
And for expats?
Yes, and for, especially expats, yes. And so if you buy a home for 500,000, your additional costs are about 30,000. And that...
and you need that in your so-called back pocket to be able to purchase a home in
absolutely.
In the Netherlands.
Yes.
Does it make a difference if you have a larger amount of money to deposit to be able to purchase a home?
Yes, that is wonderful, because you also get a lower interest from the bank. Okay. The bank has more trust in you, so when you come already with some cash, yes.
And what about the size of your salary? Does that make a difference in the ease of being able to get a mortgage? It sounds rhetorical
yes.
to me, but open question.
Yeah, not specifically the ease, but of course that is one of the main factors that's going to decide on how high your maximum loan amount is. So generally your income doesn't really matter to us regarding sort of managing risks or whatever. But of course it enables you to get a higher loan amount if your salary is higher. Yeah.
And you don't specifically need to have the 30% ruling to do any of this as an expat?
No, that's not a requirement. Just to get back to your question about if it matters where you come from, generally doesn't matter. Of course, everybody is welcome with ABN AMRO. But if you're from the EU or non-EU, then of course that makes a difference, because non-EU you would need a residence permit. And that of course might change the situation a little bit. Even Brits nowadays have a residence permit, so that is something that we need to look at as well, because some are temporary, some are indefinite. So that definitely makes a difference. But the 30% ruling as such is normally connected to the status of being a knowledge migrant, and that also makes things easier than when you don't have that status. So there is some things that we need to bear in mind. Yeah.
So it is easier if you come from within the EU, and it's absolutely possible when you come from outside of the EU.
That's a good conclusion. Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. What about when you sell? Are there also taxes that you have to pay when you sell a house in the Netherlands? Maybe Joep as a...
Well, you will have to. Well, the buyer has to indeed, as Carola just said. Well, that's only for the buyer, or if it's if in the purchase agreement the buyer and the seller have agreed that the seller should pay the transfer tax. In principle, the buyer will pay the transfer tax, which has been indeed changed as of the 1st of January of this year, because, well, before that date, the principle was that you had to pay 6% of the purchase sum in principle, unless it was a house that would be used as a permanent resident by the buyer. In that case, it would have been 2%. But this has changed in that buyers who qualify, who are categorized as starters, are exempted from paying any taxes, any transfer tax, if they are, well, for one, between the ages of 18 and 34. And
I was about to ask what is a starter mortgage
well,
owner, but it's an age-related and first-time buyer.
And well, if the transfer takes place before the date of the 1st of April 2021, or after that, the purchase sum has to be less than 400,000 euros.
Okay.
So that's something that people should also be wary of.
Okay. Thank you, Joep. We have some questions coming through, so we'll start with the first one. Does alimony qualify as income for a mortgage? Maybe, Nathan, that's something that you could answer?
Yes, it can. Up to a certain extent, because it's always temporary normally, alimony. And we would have to double check how the agreements are arranged exactly. But normally we can consider it.
Good. That's a very straightforward answer. Thank you. We have another question. Lily Kerekis, she's in Britain right now. She asked a couple of questions. She said, how long do you actually have to live in the Netherlands before you're able to get a mortgage? I am in Britain, and I'm also thinking of opening a business in the Netherlands. What would you advise her?
Yes, this is not going to be a straightforward answer, I'm afraid. Because I can see that, this person has plans to open up a business in the Netherlands. When you are, let's say, self-employed, then the bank always looks differently to you than when you're employed by a company. So if you're starting up a business in the Netherlands, then in any case you would have to wait 1 year until we can consider your revenue or your profits, and then still it is going to be limited. Only on the moment that you've had the business for 2 or 3 years, then it will be easier to have your profits and your business income considered. So that's sort of one of the answers to the question here. But normally, if you're employed, then it is advised to wait until you have surpassed 6 months of your contract, because then it means that we can consider your full current income. In any case, you would have to wait until your your probation period has ended, because during a probation period, we can never grant a mortgage. But also when your probation period has ended, but you've not lived in the Netherlands for 6 months yet, then still you can buy a house. But then we would have to look at the average of your income of the past 3 years. Doesn't matter if it has been in the UK, for instance, in this case. But that is sort of how we need to look at that.
Okay, very clear. Thank you, Nathan. We have another question. Nicola Murphy's asked, is it still possible to get a mortgage if you are employed on a temporary contract?
That's possible, yeah. So actually, based on what I just said, it is always best to wait until you've been employed for 6 months, because then we can consider your full income. And yeah, if not, we can take the average of the past 3 years. But in any case, an indefinite contract is always the best base for a mortgage.
Right, okay. And I understand if you have a temporary contract, you can also ask your employer for some kind of letter of intent. Is that how it works?
Correct. Yes. So when you have a temporary contract and a letter of intent, and you have been employed by them for 6 months, then it means that we can consider your full current income. If that's not the case, temporary with not a possibility with an intent, then the average of the past 3 years, 90% of that actually. Yeah,
Okay.
90% of the average.
90% of the average. Well, that's a good segue to the next question from Chris Gliga. I hope I pronounced it right. How is the maximum mortgage actually calculated here in the Netherlands? This is an open question.
Yeah. Well, it's not an easy answer, because you don't sort of have an easy calculation that needs to be made. It's based on tables, and the input for it is your income and the interest rate. So the combination of those two factors is going to decide on what the maximum loan amount is going to be. So you can use an online mortgage calculator to calculate it, or we can have a look at it together with the buyers.
And does ABN AMRO have an online mortgage calculator?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
In the English website, you can go to the online mortgage calculator, put in your details and your income, and then you can easily see what your maximum loan is.
Oh, great, great. We had, let's see, when should someone inquire about the mortgage? You said, so you have to wait a number of months always. So there's, initially when you first come into the country, you have to find a rental home. That creates another question. So maybe, Carola, you can explain, can you get a rental home for a short period of time with the intention of getting a mortgage, or how does that work?
Oh, definitely, yes. There's plenty of short-term places available. There is also, almost like a business hotel where everything is done for you as well. But you can also have some Airbnb for a time being, if you want to, depending really on how long you're trying to stay or wanting to stay in the temporary accommodation. But there's plenty available, for sure.
So you do need to decide before you come to the country quite quickly, would we like to try and buy a house in the Netherlands? So then you try and find a different type of rental?
Yeah, well, sometimes people rent something for a year just to get sort of accommodated to The Hague and a feeling for areas. And also in the beginning, they contact me already and say, yeah, well, we rent it for a year, but we start like in 6 months really looking for a home, and tell us a bit more about areas and about how it all works here.
So it sounds like...
Yes, it's a personal thing, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, Carola, you provide a one-stop shop with such questions from the moment you come to the Netherlands.
Yeah, definitely.
And guiding people with rentals, and then helping them with being able to purchase a home as well.
Yes, we have somebody who takes care of the rentals as well as me, but I'm really mostly on purchase, because that is really my thing. Yes. And we provide also for expats who leave the country the rental service, but also property management, which is really important that we help them. We have a service contract, and we help them to be the person the tenant goes to.
So this is where Joep had mentioned that you need to have a person in the Netherlands.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And then you provide the service for actually placing the people into the homes.
Yes, it's a really great buffer between an owner and a tenant. It's really like almost a must-do to have a property manager There's no way you can do that if you are in a different time zone. So, and somebody has to be hands-on, and we have all the contacts here with contractors and hand workers and hotlines. Yes.
That sounds great. I'm wondering, is it possible to run Carola's video shortly? I think that would be a very nice segue so that the viewers can understand what she's able to do here for them.
Hi, my name is Carola Grünenbaum. For more than 22 years, I am a realtor in The Hague. My specialty is being a buyer's agent. I profoundly help people to buy the next home. I just delivered my keynote speech about how to buy your next home at a great price without hassles. I'm also the author of The Hague Houses and Happiness. Stark Real Estate is for 22 years in business. We are long-term expats ourselves. When we came here, we had to find out everything ourselves. We are a strong player at the real estate market. We are very strong buyers agents. We know what we are talking about, as we are really educated in all the laws and regulations. We love to help you profoundly.
Well, thank you very much. That looks like a very good service for the expats listening.
Thank you.
We've almost finished this session of how to buy a home in the Netherlands, or how to buy a home in The Hague. So I'd like to thank everyone here and make sure you note their names. And if you have any questions outside of the session, they're all more than happy to answer them. So thank you very much, Carola Grünenbaum from Stark Real Estate. Thank you very much, Joep Ertem from Van Butinga Wichers Notarissen. And thank you very much, Nathan Temps, Advisor International Clients and Mortgages at ABN AMRO. So I think it's quite clear. Make sure you come to the website feelathomeinthehague.com 2021, and you can find everyone here and ask them personally, or do as I do, link with them directly on LinkedIn. So thank you very much. I think we have a few more seconds to go, but yeah. Have a good afternoon.